Okay, moving on to part two of your Fancy Dan NLP seminar. Your money for nothing NLP seminar, your $2,500 NLP seminar brought to you free of charge by not-for-profit NLP. Yet another mind emission on a beautiful sunny Sunday in New York City. Now, let's stop and calibrate. Let's stop and think think about what we're thinking about. I don't talk a lot about modeling. And the reason I don't use the term modeling very much is I think it is a degenerate concept, in a philosophical sense of degenerate, in that it has come to mean so many different things for so many different people, with so many different people trying to claim authority or origination or priority over what is modeling. You know, should we use implicit modeling, knowledge engineering, explicit modeling, all these ways of gathering maps. Who cares? You know, I just want something that works. I want something that will allow me to get my thing done in the cleanest, quickest way I possibly can. And I really give a flying fuck, who is trying to nail down on all four corners their little modeling idea. There are a lot of good ideas that come from many, many different schools of it. And none of them really capture the whole thing, or the kind of thing you would do with a scientist, or the kind of thing you do with a tennis player, or the kind of thing you would do with a politician, or you need a whole different set of approaches and a great deal of flexibility, because the world is incredibly complex, and there are very, very different manifestations of human brilliance that require very, very different approaches for learning. So anybody that says that it is the modeling or the one modeling that works, the modeling we should all use, is total bullshit, okay? Even if you're hearing it from, the most exalted NLP bullshitterati. No, it's, there's certain things that are useful. There's certain things that are useful in certain contexts. Remember that context reframe? In what context could that thing be useful? In certain contexts, an implicit modeling technique or some kind of new code instant learning may be just absolutely the thing in one context. Some like really, really explicit unpacking of sequences and dependencies might be really the thing in another context. So let's get over all that. Let's use it all. I'm not going to talk about modeling. This is probably one of the very few times I will ever talk about modeling. Only to say that I don't like the idea of modeling very much. It's just, NLP should just get rid of it and come up with some other language. I think they've actually become trapped. There's a very good example of the word like modeling actually becoming sort of a conceptual sand trap that all this other potentially useful thinking has, once it hits that sand trap, it's really, really hard to get a good clean shot out of it. So ditch it, okay, ditch modeling. But keep mapping. And if you will notice, where have we been in my 141 or 2? I don't know how many vids I've got, a bunch of them right now. A great deal, if you say, what is the implicit process of almost everything I've been doing, or maybe not all of it, but a pretty good chunk, pretty high percentage, there's an implicit process if you've been following and watching for implicit processes. The implicit process of what I've been doing has been a heck of a lot around mapping and map making and map designing. So I brought this book to your attention, which I've marked out with my little tabs so I can get to my data very quickly. And as you can see, there are all kinds of maps in the style that this book and this author likes to think about mapping. Is that always useful? Well, in some contexts, that's useful. Yeah, you can, there's a real complex map. But there are all kinds of other ways to map. So, if you remember the basketball, okay, which is one form of, or at least in my intention, one form of visual to kinesthetic mapping. What is this an example of? You are here. What is an example of this? And really helping you, hopefully, if you've got any kind of basketball encoding, start connecting logical level shifts with basketball, hoop. We also have another form of mapping. So I brought up another kind of mapping, a butt plug map. With definitely, we're looking at stages or gradations of experience with a strong visual to kinesthetic mapping mapping design there, okay? If you're learning a language, you may use flashcards. These are great for learning little mappings of languages. La nariz, okay, the nose. El rincón, the corner. Robar, to rob. And, languages often, you will find, do not have precise one-to-one mappings. They often have many-to-one mappings where they may have one verb where we have two or three, or we have one verb where they have two or three. I was very surprised in Spanish. The first thing I learned was they had two verbs of to be, ser and estar, and then they had like multiple verbs for the word to happen. So we use just what happened. Which they do have kind of a generic verb for to happen, suceder, but que sucede, what happened. But they have all these other ways of talking about what happened or what occurred. Like so 3 or 4 to 1. We also have ways of mapping. Let's see if we can get that. We're mapping actual mental processes. Going from sort of a middle ego state down through logical levels. This is a chunk down map. It's my chunk down card. So in all these cases, and many, many more, I don't have anything else right around here I can get my hands on. But we've done a great deal of work through all these multiple videos. What has this journey been about? This has really been a lot of a journey about getting good at mapping. So what I'm going to be proposing and what we're going to be working on in this video, the next videos, is we're going to actually look at a way of mapping your internal experience more precisely. So we're going to develop a higher precision map that includes submodalities. We're going to a higher precision map that includes other sort of my mapping stuff. What is my NLP about? It's really about mapping. And how do we take those maps and how do we take those maps out and externalize them so other people can follow them and work with our mapping system, and how can we use that map to help other people in a certain way impose a degree of order or a degree of consistency or a degree of exactitude on what may be less than precise or less than exact thinking out there. So that's why I started with this 1 to 10, 1 to 5, maybe in some super simple cases 1 to 3 idea. Now that was just to get things going. That was just to get the ball rolling, so to speak. Where's my ball? I don't know where it went. Took off. To get the ball rolling. But we're going to start building in a lot more structure. But as long as you know why we're doing it, and it's very important. I found in communication, once people know the intent, they know the reason you're doing something, they will get on board a lot quicker. So then if you just say, go do this, do as I say, not as I do, just go do this thing. People often, it's not just a matter of resistance, they just don't understand where that fits in their map. So you have got to, and I have got to, and what we're going to work on is how do we take a sophisticated set of mapping tools and help that drop into someone else's map, or help our sophisticated set of mapping tools help us allow their stuff to drop into our maps with greater precision, which is great stuff. I guess that's probably enough for now. I've been running off at the mouth, and so we're going to take 1 to 10, 10 to 1, 1 to 5, 5 to 1. We're going to be working on that stuff with the submodalities, with graded structures, and using various ways of kind of playing with that. Okay, fun ways to play with that. Teachable to adults, kids, everybody from grandpa to the grandkids can learn this stuff and get real sharp at it. But as long as you know where we are on the map, the big map is these are all examples of mapping techniques. And I think what I'm kind of going to be teaching you is kind of one of the master map making techniques that you can then use to go and make maps of all kinds of other things. And it's really great. It feels good. You feel in control. You feel confident. You have a sense of sort of confidence at the process level that you can do some real good mapping on the fly, and you know how to do it. So That's what I will be teaching you, and that's what you're going to be learning in the next video or 2 or 3 or 4.